So I'll start off sitting in a comfortable position, either on a block or a pillow, or just on your cushy butt. And we'll begin off today's practice with a little bit of mindful breathing. So just letting your eyes close for a moment, and inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. And just taking these first few breaths to kind of bring the attention inwards. And see if you can observe what happens to your body when you inhale and exhale. What happens to the muscles across your ribs when you take in a breath? What happens to the muscles across your back and in your shoulders and your neck when you exhale? And it's in the process of bringing your attention to all of these little physical aspects of something as ordinary as breathing that we bring your mind into your body's time, which is always in the present. So inhaling a little bit deeper, and as you inhale, your spine gets a little bit taller. And then as you exhale, scoop your belly button in towards your spine and up towards your heart. So create a little hollow cavity in your lower core. Just noticing how that changes your posture. And then we'll begin linking movement with breath. So inhaling, reaching both hands up over your head. And then exhale, reaching your fingertips out to the sides and metering your breath until your lungs are empty and your fingers find the floor. Pushing out all the air at the bottom until your lungs are empty. And again, inhaling, raising both hands up towards the ceiling. Sipping in a little bit more air at the top. And then exhale, reaching those hands as far apart as you can so you create space in between your shoulder blades until your lungs empty and your fingers ground out on the floor. Pushing out all the air at the bottom so you're fully empty again. One more time, inhaling, raising both hands up over your head. And then this time exhaling and folding over at the waist down into your forward fold. Walking your fingertips out in front of you and letting your forehead drop down towards the mat. And taking in a few breaths here, I'm just kind of noticing where the breath goes when you're all folded forwards and there's no room for your belly to expand. But still drawing in for long, deep inhales and long, slow exhales. Slowly walking both hands over to the left side, just about as far as feels comfortable. Taking in a deep breath and a long exhale and softening over your left thigh. Slowly walking both hands over towards the right side. Again, just about as far as feels good, so you feel that stretch. Taking a deep breath and then long exhale over your right leg. One more time, walking both hands back to center. Maybe bringing your fingertips out a little bit further than they were the first time. And if you have any thoughts that are still nagging on your brain, you can drop them off down on the floor. And if they're really important, you can pick them up later. If not, you can just leave them there all day, all week. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly push yourself all the way back up and make our way onto our hands and knees. So with your fingertips spread wide and your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees about hip width apart, we're going to come into cat and cow. So inhaling to look up, dropping your belly down towards the mat. And then exhale, curving your chin towards your navel and arching your spine up towards the ceiling. And just moving at your own breath here. Let's say you're inhaling to look up. And then exhaling to do that big movement through your spine. And see if you can feel each vertebrae sliding over the other as you warm up all the muscles along your spinal column, in between your shoulders. take 1 or 2 more passes. And then eventually coming into a nice neutral spine. You're going to push your heart away from the floor and reaching your right arm out in front of you, and then pushing your left heel straight back behind you, and then hollowing out your stomach, tucking your belly button in towards your spine. On the exhale, we're going to connect elbow to knee under your body, and then inhale to extend, reaching out really far. Again, exhale to connect. Inhale to extend and holding it extended out for a moment. One more time, exhale to connect. One more time, reaching out. And coming back onto all fours. Take a second to resettle. And then reaching your left arm out in front of you, pushing your right heel straight back away from you. Hollowing out your stomach, tucking your belly button in towards your spine. On the exhale, connect elbow to knee under your body. Inhale to extend, reaching out. Exhale to connect. Inhale to extend, holding it for a moment, pushing out through your heel and your fingertips. Exhale to connect, one more time. Inhale to extend, one more time. And coming back onto all fours. Walking your hands out just a little bit in front of your shoulders. You're going to press your fingertips into the floor, curl under your toes, and come into first downward dog of the class. Assuming everyone's already done a downward dog today, so that's why it's just of the class. So for the first downward dog, you can pedal your heels, you can kind of roll through your spine, you can shake your head loose, you can kind of do whatever you need to do to make this downward dog yours. We'll hold here for 2 more breaths. And slowly walking your feet towards your hands, coming into a forward fold. Letting your head and your arms relax down here as you stretch out your hamstrings. Again, keeping any of those little organic movements alive, so maybe swishing your butt from side to side, or shaking your head loose, or rolling your shoulders. And then bending at the knees, we're going to curl 1 vertebrae at a time all the way up to standing. So we inhale, raising both hands up over your head. You're going to grab onto your big old ball of happiness. And once you grab onto it, you're going to sink your shoulders down away from your ears and engage your core. And extend that ball towards one side of the room, extending it as far as you can. So you're reaching it like you want to pass it to someone over there, but there's nobody over there. So you bring it back up and you fold it over to the other side like you're going to pass it to somebody over there, but there's nobody over there either. So you come back to center, open your heart up into a gentle back bend, and your golden ball of happiness dissipates into a big flurry of golden confetti that comes tumbling all the way down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head. And then exhale to walk yourself out into your plank. And for the first chaturanga, we'll lower down knees, chest and chin all the way onto your belly, keeping your elbows tight into your sides. And then pressing the tops of your feet into the floor, we're going to raise your heart up off the mat into baby cobra, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. And then pushing off your hands and knees all the way back into your child's pose. And holding here for a moment, but it's a little bit of an active child's pose, so you're pressing your fingertips into the mat to gently draw your bum down towards your heels. Curling under your toes, we'll come back into your downward facing dog. And this time holding your downward dog with a little bit more intention, so a little bit less wiggling and more just kind of gently trying to push your heels down to the floor behind you and squeezing your quads to push the backs of your knees to the world behind you. And as always, your tailbone is reaching up towards the ceiling. Holding here for 2 more breaths. Looking in between your hands, stepping your right foot forwards, followed by your left. Find ourselves back into our forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, flattening your back. Exhale, fold down a little bit deeper. And then inhale, coming all the way up to standing. Again, finding that big old ball of happiness that's always floating around you. Going to pass it towards one side of the room so you feel that stretch from your armpit all the way down into your hips. Squeezing back up to center, folding over in the opposite direction. One more time back up into the middle, into a gentle back bend. Just kind of opening up your heart. And then exhale to fold down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, flattening along your spine. And then exhale, stepping your right foot back, followed by your left, into your plank. And either taking knees, chest, chin, chaturanga, or full high to low push-up chaturanga. Whatever chaturanga is your chaturanga is my chaturanga. And then inhale into upward dog or baby cobra, whatever feels right for you. And then curl over your toes into your downward facing dog. And as we start to generate a little bit of warmth in your muscles, you kind of push your heels back a little bit further. Maybe broadening out your shoulder blades a little bit wider. We'll stay here for 3 more long, slow, deep breaths. Looking in between your hands, we're going to step your left foot forwards, followed by your right foot. Inhale into a long spine, flattening your back, reaching the crown of your head towards the front of the room, and then exhale, folding down a little bit deeper. And then inhale, coming all the way to standing, raising both hands up over your head. One last time, extending that ball of joy to one side of the room. One more time, extending the ball of joy to the other side of the room. One more time, back up to center, into a gentle back bend. And then exhale down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, flattening your back. And then exhale, stepping your left foot back, followed by your right. And then taking whichever form of chaturanga you prefer, high to low push-up or knees, chest, chin. Inhale into baby cobra or upward facing dog. And then curl over your toes into your downward facing dog. Cool. From here, we're going to take your right heel and push your right heel straight up to the ceiling as high as you can. And then open up through the hip so you drop your right heel down towards the crown of your head and let that leg hang loose for a moment. Stepping your right foot through in between your hands for a low lunge. Pausing there, just giving a little rock front and back as you stretch out your left hip flexor. See what happens when you push your left heel away from you as you draw your right knee forwards at the same time. And then dropping your back heel down to the mat at a 45-degree angle. You're going to lengthen through your spine and then float up into your warrior one. So keeping that core engaged so you aren't like arching too far back, but your core is strong. And then maintain that strength in your lower core. We're going to draw your right hip back and your left hip forwards. So your hips are square off to the front of the mat, all the while keeping that back leg really strong and straight. 2 more breaths here. Cool, and then opening up into warrior two, reaching both hands out in either direction. And just taking a moment to see that the heel of your front foot is in line with the arch of your back foot. And then driving down just a little bit deeper. So you can start to play around with your warrior. Taking the gaze over the ring finger of your front hand. Dropping your shoulders down away from your ears. Beautiful. Dropping your back hand to your back thigh, reaching your top arm over your head behind you. As you drive that front knee forwards just a little bit more. And then on the exhale, we'll transition to bring your right elbow to your right knee, reaching your left arm over your head towards the front of the room. Now, if you want to stay here, you can stay right here with that good support in your right shoulder. If you want to take a step further, you can slide that hand down to your inner thigh and find the floor on the inside. And then roll your left shoulder blade back behind you. If you want to take it even further, bring your left arm behind your lower back to find your hip crease and reach your right arm underneath and try and find those fingertips underneath you. As you go for the bind, rolling left shoulder blade over the right and extending the crown of your head towards the front of the room. And I'm so sorry for that beeping noise. The smoke alarm just started beeping a little while ago. I don't know why. Wherever we're at, we're going to slowly release to come down. Bring that bottom hand to find the floor. Top arm reaching back over towards the front of the room. And then, oh, there's your big golden ball of joy. So we're going to reach forward and grab onto it. And extend it up towards the ceiling into the back of the room. Reaching it forwards, extending as far forwards as you can. One more time up into the back of the room. And then cartwheel both hands down either side of your front foot. Walk yourself out into your plank and chaturanga. High to low push-up or knees, chest, chin. Inhale into your upward dog. Curl over your toes into your downward dog. And pausing here just for a moment to kind of feel the difference from one side to the other after doing that little warrior sequence. Raising your left heel all the way up behind you, and then rolling open through the hips and dropping your left heel down towards the crown of your head. Stepping your left foot through in between your hands for a low lunge, pausing there for a moment. Just giving a little rock front and back to open up your right hip flexor. Seeing what happens when you push out through your right heel and your left knee at the same time. And then dropping your back heel down to the ground at about a 45-degree angle. Lengthening out through your spine and then floating all the way up into your warrior one. Again, bringing that intention down to your core. So drawing your belly button in towards your spine. So everything is really strong down there. And then pulling your right hip forwards and your left hip back. Pushing the outside edge of your back foot into the mat. Two more breaths here. And then opening up into your warrior two, reaching both hands out in opposite directions. Just taking a moment to see that the heel of your front foot is in alignment with the arch of your back foot. And then driving that left knee forwards just a little bit deeper as you reach your fingertips out so far that you create a good amount of space in between your shoulder blades. Dropping your back hand to your back leg, reaching your top arm over your head towards the back of the room. So drive that left knee forwards and take the gaze up towards the ceiling underneath your biceps. On the exhale, we're going to transition left elbow to left knee, reaching your right arm up towards the ceiling and then over your head towards the front of the room. Now again, if this feels good, you can stay right here. Keep on extending that top arm forwards. If you want to take it a little bit further, we're going to slide that left hand down to find the floor on your inner thigh. If you want to take it one more step, we're going to bring your right arm behind your lower back to find your left hip crease. And then reach your left arm underneath to find those fingertips. Rolling your right shoulder blade over left and extending the crown of your head towards the front of the room. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. No matter where you're at, and slowly release to come back down. And then taking your gaze forwards, we're going to reach both hands in front of you, grab onto your big old ball of joy. Keeping that front knee bent, we're going to extend that ball up and towards the back of the room. Extend it towards the front of the room as far forwards as you can. One more time, up into the back of the room. And then cartwheeling both hands down either side of your front foot. Walk yourself out into your plank and chaturanga. High to low push-up. Inhale into your upward dog. And exhale into your downward dog. Just pausing for a moment to make sure that both sides are balanced and just seeing the difference, if there is one. Looking in between your hands, you can walk or jump forwards back into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthening out through the crown of your head, flattening your spine. Exhale, fold down a little bit deeper. Inhale, coming all the way up to standing, raising both hands over your head. Exhale, hands down by your sides. Bringing your fingertips to your hip crease, we're going to step your right foot behind you about 2 feet. So you have a good space in between your feet that way and a good space in between your feet that way. Drawing your shoulder blades back together, you're going to inhale, lengthen through your spine, and then exhale, folding over at that hip crease. Maintain the length in your back as we come down into intense leg stretch. So folding down just about as far as you can, trying to maintain that length and that balance in your hips. And then once you can't go down any further with your back straight, you can release your hands, curl over your spine so that your fingers find the floor, and you can give your left knee a kiss if you so desire. It's all taking a deep breath with a noisy exhale, like an exasperated sigh. And sometimes just giving yourself that permission to breathe noisily. It sends a message to your muscles that it's okay, they can relax a little bit more. Slowly transitioning all the weight into your front foot. We're going to walk your fingertips forwards so your back heel floats up towards the ceiling as high as you can into your needle pose. And still trying to keep your hips level with the floor and your back foot flexed. So your right foot, it's like you're standing on the wall behind you or you're standing on the ceiling. And you're squeezing from your right bum cheek to raise that leg up just a little bit higher. On an exhale, we're going to bring your right foot down behind your left foot so your pinky toes are touching. Inhale, lengthen through your spine, and then exhale, fold down into your sciatic stretch. And sliding your hands up your legs, we're going to interlace your fingers behind your back and pulling your knuckles up towards the ceiling and then over your head towards the front of the room to open up your shoulder girdle. And then leading with the heart, we're going to float all the way up to standing until you pull your knuckles down to the floor behind you. Take a moment to let any sparkles in your vision kind of go away. You can release your hands. And then we're going to draw your right foot up into tree pose. So tree pose can either be right heel on your left ankle with your knee out to the side, arch of your foot on your calf, foot all the way up into your inner thigh. The only place we don't want your foot is directly on the side of your knee. Once you find your position, bring your hands into a prayer in front of your heart and focus your gaze on something that doesn't move. That's your drishti. Think about the leg that's doing the standing, that you're pushing the floor away from you so your spine is getting a little bit taller. And you're tucking your belly button in towards your spine so your lower core is active and engaged throughout the pose. Opening up the branches of your tree and sinking your shoulders down away from your ears. And pulling your heart forward just a little bit. From here we're going to transition into Warrior 3. So pushing that right heel straight back behind you and folding over at the waist. Reaching both arms out in front of you like you're jumping out of a helicopter towards your guardian angel. But it's just a made-up thing. Whenever you're ready to come out of it, we're going to squeeze from the left hamstring to come all the way back to standing, and hands and feet come down to the mat. Take a second to pedal over your toes. Resettle, shake your hips out. Do whatever you need to do to get loose. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Finding that hip crease and stepping your left foot back behind you, about 2 feet. Getting a good space, good space. Drawing your elbows back towards each other. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. And then exhale, folding over where that hip crease is into your intense leg stretch. So trying to reach the crown of your head forwards, keeping your back as straight as can be as you fold down. You feel that stretch in your hamstring. You're like, oh good, that feels so great. I'm awesome. And then whenever you're ready, curl over your spine so that your hands come down towards the floor and your forehead rests down on your right knee. Like we did with the other side, taking in a deep breath with the noisy exhale. Anything that you can do to kind of send those messages to your body that it's okay to relax just a little bit more. Drawing your right hip back and your left hip forward. See how that kind of changes the stretch a little bit more. We'll stay here for 2 more breaths. Slowly transitioning to put all the weight into your front foot, walking your fingertips forward so your back heel floats up to the ceiling. And try to keep your hips squared off to the floor so it's just your left bum cheek that's squeezing to come up into your needle pose. And your back foot is still flexed, like you're trying to stand on the wall behind you or the ceiling above you. Raise that leg up just a little bit higher. And then slowly lowering down, left foot behind the right so your pinky toes are touching. Ankles are crossed. Inhale, lengthen through your spine, flattening your back. And then exhale, folding down into your sciatic stretch on the other side. And in here, just kind of noticing what happens when you take in that really deep breath. How does that change the stretch all the way down into your hips? Slowly sliding your hands up your legs. You're going to interlace your fingers behind your back and pulling your knuckles up to the ceiling and then over your head towards the front of the room. Leading with the heart, we're going to float all the way back up to standing, pulling your knuckles down to the floor behind you. If you have any sparkles in your vision, that's kind of cool. Just wait for a moment for them all to pass, then you can release your hands. And we'll draw your left foot up into tree pose. So again, either left heel on your right ankle, arch of your foot on your calf, or all the way up into your inner thigh. Once you find your position, bring your hands into a prayer in front of your heart and focus your gaze on your drishti. While the leg that's doing the standing is pushing you away from the floor, so your spine gets a little bit longer, and as you exhale, tuck your belly button in towards your spine so your lower core is active and engaged. Opening up the branches of your tree and sinking your shoulders down away from your ears. And send that left heel straight back behind you. We'll transition into your warrior 3. Reaching both hands out in front of you so your heart's looking down towards the floor and you're pressing that back heel straight on the wall behind you. Whenever you decide to come up, squeeze from the right hamstring to come all the way back up to standing, and then hands and feet come down on their own accord. Again, take a second to pedal over your toes, swish and move, feel loose for a second, and then we'll come to standing on the front of your mat. We'll inhale, raising both hands up over your head, and then exhale to fold down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, flattening along your spine. Exhale, walk or jump out into your plank, and pause at the high plank. And pushing our heart away from the floor here, we're going to plant your right hand in the center of the mat and roll over onto your side, raising your left arm up towards the ceiling. Now this is really hard. You can always put that left foot on the top to kind of help you raise that hip off the mat, or you can stack your feet. Or if you make it really hard, you can raise your left foot up like you're a flying star. Wherever we're at, we're going to come all the way back down onto your plank and just switch sides. Left hand in the center of the mat, stacking your whole body, raising your right arm up towards the ceiling. And then whichever placement of your feet feels right for you is right for you. Slowly coming back down into your high plank and rolling over your toes, coming all the way into your downward facing dog. Raising your right heel all the way up behind you. We're going to float your right knee to your right elbow, hovering above the ground for a moment, making that connection. Send your right leg straight back up behind you. Bring your right knee to your left elbow, crossing under your midline. Send your right leg straight back up behind you. Bring your knee to your nose. Try and kiss your right kneecap. Send it straight back up behind you. And then folding your right leg through into pigeon pose. So right knee is kind of behind your right wrist. Right ankle's trying to get behind your left wrist. So as you wiggle that left foot back, so it's more or less center on the mat. And your hips get pretty gosh darn close to the floor. Once you find your position, inhale, lengthen through your spine. And then maintaining that length, walk yourself down to let your forehead rest on either the floor or a pillow, or you can stack your hands, rest your hands on your head on your hands. And we're going to take the next few moments to just focus on your breath work here. So as you inhale deeply, you create a space in your core, all the way down into your hips and your ribs. And as you exhale, you just kind of soften through all the points where you feel tightness to fill in that space. We'll stay here for 3 more long, slow, deep breaths. Whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly walk yourself back up. Pausing for a moment at the top. Take a look over one shoulder just for a gentle spinal twist. Take a look over the other. Uncurl your back toes and we'll come all the way back into your downward facing dog. Taking your time to get there. And then pedaling one heel after the other so you can feel the difference from the pigeon sequence from one leg to the next. Finding stillness in your downward dog, we're going to raise your left heel all the way up behind you. Floating your left knee to your left elbow, hovering above the ground for a moment. Send it straight back up behind you. Left knee to your right elbow, crossing under your midline. Send it straight back up behind you. And then knee to nose, try and kiss your kneecap. Send it straight back up behind you. And then folding your left leg through into pigeon pose on the other side. So again, left knee is kind of behind your left wrist. Left ankle is trying to get behind your right wrist, and then wiggle your right foot back. So it's more or less center on the mat. You just don't want it flaring out to the side. Once you find your position, inhale, lengthen through your spine, and then maintain that length to walk your hands out in front of you, until your forehead rests on either stacked hands or the mat. Again, focusing on your breath work here for the next few moments. And just seeing how heavy you can let your body be on the exhale. We'll hold here for 2 more breaths. And whenever you're ready, we're going to slowly walk yourself back up. Pausing for a moment at the top. Just giving a gentle spinal twist. Look over one shoulder. Look over the other. And we'll roll over onto your left bum cheek and bring your right foot all the way around in front of you. And scooting your bum towards the front edge of your mat. And moving the muscle out of the way until you can find those sits bones firmly on the floor. Pushing out through your heels and the backs of your knees to the ground, we're going to inhale, raising both hands up over your head. And then exhale to fold to birdcage your feet. Let your forehead drop down towards your knees. Inhale fully and exhale completely. If you want to make the stretch a little bit more intense or a little bit harder, squeeze your quads, the top part of your leg, to push the backs of your knees into the floor. Inhale, reaching both hands forward, floating all the way back up. Bring your hands down by your sides. We'll come into laying down flat on your back. Cool. So bending at the knees until you can find your heels with your fingertips. With your knees in line with your hips, we're going to push off your heels, raising your hips up towards the ceiling, just about as high as you can. And then interlace your fingers underneath your bum, walking in your elbows and your triceps towards each other. So you stack your whole body off the mat. If this feels good, you can stay here. If you want to take it a step further, you can use your hands to support your lower back, and then kick one foot after the other to come into shoulder stand. If you choose to go for the shoulder stand, whatever you do with your feet up here is your business. You can come into a split, you can wiggle your legs around, you could bicycle in the air, pretty much whatever you do right now, you're doing because it feels good. But whatever we're doing, eventually all that fun has to come to an end. So if your feet are up towards the ceiling, we're going to bring your toes down to the floor behind you. Straighten out your arms like railroad tracks and lower one vertebrae at a time all the way down onto your back. If your hands are clasped under your butt, you can release them and lower them on down. Cool. Drawing both knees into your chest, giving yourself a little rock from side to side, massaging the muscles in your lower back into the floor. Maybe drawing a circle on the floor. And come into stillness. We're going to straighten out your right leg along the mat, pushing out your way from it with your right heel. And then with your right hand, pulling your left knee across your body, just reach your left arm out to the side. And as you hold the spinal twist, just again, bringing the attention back into your breath work. Such a nice, juicy spinal twist that when you inhale deeply, you can kind of create that space, and then as you exhale, you can let your arm and leg be just a little bit heavier. Slowly making your way onto your back, hugging both knees into your chest again. Give a little rock side to side. And then straighten out your left leg along the mat. With your left hand pulling your right knee across your body and reaching your right arm out to the side for spinal twist in the other direction. Again, just taking in those deep breaths. And see if you can actually visualize the discs in between your vertebrae, like sponges. As you're breathing, you're kind of hydrating them, wringing them out. One last time, bringing both knees into your chest. Giving a little rock from side to side. And tucking your forehead up into your knees, making your body like a little itty bitty seed. And then straightening out into your Shavasana pose. Letting your feet splay out open to the sides and your palms rest towards the ceiling. We'll take the next few moments to rest in stillness and silence. And just see if you can observe your body in a state of complete relaxation. And this is where you get the full benefit of your yoga practice. And slowly wiggling your fingers and your toes, bring movement back into your body. At your own pace, draw your knees into your chest. Roll over onto your side and push yourself up into a comfortable sitting position. With your hands resting on your lap, we find ourselves how we began today's practice. I'm just taking a moment to observe your breath and seeing if you can see any changes in the depth of your breath or the quality of your breath. And then taking a moment to send out a silent message of love and peace and healing and patience to everyone out there who could use it today. Inhale, raising both hands up over your head. Exhale your hands into a prayer in front of your heart. And we'll close with a single heartfelt namaste. Namaste, everybody. Thank you all so much for practicing with me today. Hope to see you all on Friday morning for core.